Today I'm sitting down with Jan Grinshtein, co-founder and CEO of Cepien AI. Jan, welcome.
Thank you for having.
So Jan, can you go about your journey and your background and why you started this kind of business?
Wow. Uh, Background. So I come from about 20, well, almost 25 years of product and design experience. Spent about a decade across agencies, rising through the ranks from junior designer all the way to art director, and then leaving that space, going completely off the rails a little bit and working as a photographer for a little bit. Then moving back to New York in 2014, I decided to not go back to agencies and go work for startups because I just love startups. And then I spent a decade or so building startups with other founders, not as a founder, just to put it out there. I was always 4 out of 5 startups I worked at. I was a first design hire, and I was the one to essentially set up the processes, the systems, hire teams, build them, and so forth. And why I started Cepien. It was supposed to be a book, and I've been talking about it for quite a while now with people. I developed a decision-making framework back in 2019-ish, and it proven to be successful. I was head of design at another startup, rapidly scaling startup. I think we just raised our Series B or C at a time, and we're struggling with really understanding how do we satisfy our customers, make sure our users are happy, and at the same time, everyone in the company has a voice and kind of can bring their own thoughts and ideas and whatnot, and not fighting inside of whose ideas or features we should be building and stuff like that. The system proved to be pretty successful. We really increased our revenue. We increased our customer satisfaction. We went down from 2.5-hour quarterly roadmap meetings to like 45 minutes. And eventually I went on later on for years training and educating other design product leaders on how to use the framework itself. And at some point I got fed up of training people. And then I just said, you know what, I'm just going to write a book. And around 21, when I left that company, I told my wife, I'm going to take a year off and write a book. She said, sure. But another startup out of Minnesota came knocking on my door. I joined at first as a fractional head of design. Then I just plunged, full head in as full time. And while I was there, another company came knocking on my door out of Seattle, which was an AI company that I joined right way before ChatGPT became a thing. And so when I stepped down as head of design at that AI company out of Seattle in December of 23, I sat down and I said the same thing to my wife. I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to go back to my book. And so I took about a month or so just kind of relax after that role. And in around January-ish of 24, I went up to my office, sat down, started reading the first chapter that I wrote back in 21, and something clicked, like something shifted in my brain, because after spending a year and a half building an AI product, I realized that instead of writing a book, I can actually make it into a product and give it to people. Like, instead of giving instructions, just here, use it. So that's how it was really born.
Were all those startup like AI businesses, or what kind of startup were all of those in those like 10 years?
No, but they were all, I like to say, at a cutting edge tech. So when I left agencies, I made a kind of promise to myself. I want to work on things that I've never worked on before. And coming out of agencies is incredibly difficult because you work basically on anything and everything under the sky. Like, I worked on government tech and military and fintech and insurance and automotive and cellular and you name it. But I kind of kept that promise to myself. The first startup that I joined in 2014 was a 3D printing, consumer 3D printing. It was like a hot cupcake back in 2014. There was a big company out of Brooklyn making waves called MakerBot, founded by a guy named Bree, and they got acquired by an Israeli an Israeli company called Stratasys back in 2015, I think, for like $500 million. At that time, it was like a huge wave of these like little 3D printing companies. And the guy that I worked for, he used to work with Bree. He left, I don't know for what reasons, and then he started his own. He bootstrapped it from basically his kitchen in Brooklyn to a facility in Brooklyn to 35 employees. And we had investors knocking down our door basically with open checks after the acquisition of MakerBot, right? Because there were, at the time, I would say maybe 4 companies that were actually producing quality printers that actually worked well. It was MakerBot, obviously. It was us, which the name of the company was super ridiculous, Solid Doodle, but anyway. And Formlabs. Formlabs was a third, but they had like a little slightly different tech of how to manufacture things. Unfortunately, because the founder was, I wouldn't call him cocky. I think he was a little misguided. He thought that he can write it all by himself without giving any equity to anyone. And so he turned down all the investors, and about half a year later, we went out of business. Story for another day. But he took me out for a walk and he said, Jan, I love you. I love working with you, but I just can't pay you anymore. So here we are. And after that, I found myself in special education technology, working with Department of Education and school districts across the tri-state area, which is Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. Built an incredible product. They've been around for a long time, but they've never had a designer in-house, and they were entering a new market. I believe it was state of Ohio. And they realized they have a lot of competition and they're not up to date. They're a company that started in late 90s and remains kind of the same as you would expect from a government type product that looks like it was made in the 90s and never been updated. So I joined and I was tasked with complete redesign of the platform, and which I did. And then the company got acquired, and I remember the CEO and some other executives from the acquiring company did a speech at our office and essentially handpicked me out and said one of the major decisions in acquiring the company was the fact of how the system was redesigned and how easy and simple it was to use for teachers and special ed professionals. And lo and behold, 3 months later, that company fired me because apparently they didn't like somebody who demands to do their job and not follow orders, if you will. Yeah, I don't do well with orders. And so from there, I found myself with a cybersecurity company, and I remember the founders spent probably a month trying to convince me to join, because when I met them at WeWork, I think they just raised their pre-seed and they didn't have an office yet. I met them at WeWork in New York, and they walked me through of what they're building, and for me, I was like, for the love of God, I can understand, why do you need somebody on the design side? You're building an API based product, like you're just giving command code to your customers. And they walked me with this kind of vision of like, no, we want to build this and that and that, and this how we see this industry evolving. And so I joined them, and lo and behold, we built some incredible products. We essentially created, the company has 2 patents in pastoral authentication systems that are partially based on my designs. We created first was mobile to web authentication and mobile to computer authentication without any passwords. So essentially utilizing your personal biometrics, if you will. And it's an exchange of private and public keys. It's based on FIDO framework. And eventually I ended up sitting on the FIDO Alliance UX task force for 3 or 4 months, helping them kind of figure out how to market all of that to the general consumer. And the board was consistent of design leaders from Visa, MasterCard, from eBay, from Facebook, or Meta, and so forth. I was there for 4.5 years to that company. Like the company, the guys convinced me to join. I spent 4.5 years building, basically going from biometric modalities to passive authentication, and building mobile applications, building Mac and Windows OS products, building a physical key for like banks and stuff like that, which was a biometric authentication key, like you can just tap and unlock your computer via Bluetooth. So yeah, it was an incredible journey. I came in, I was employee number 5. I left, and I think there were 75 or 80 employees, and at the time we raised around slightly over $85 million. And then when I left that role, that's when I decided to write a book. Then a relationship tech company came knocking on my door. Consumer product, I don't think I worked on any consumer product apart from the printers and my agency experience. I love B2B. I can say with full confidence, I absolutely love working on B2B products. even though I've done some B2C stuff. So they came knocking on my door. And again, really, the founders were really trying to convince me, because I told them, like, listen, I don't want to do anything for a while. Like, I just don't. I just spent 4.5 years of basically no weekends and vacations, working with founders, not even being a founder, but among the early employees, building this company to go from basically 5, 7 employees to this uh, fairly substantially, mid-sized company with customers like Rakuten and Samsung and MasterCard and State Auto and Aetna and CVS and then so forth, right? Like I worked with all these like design teams from all these companies to help them design, deploy our product internally without skewing their user experience. Like, it was an incredible journey. And one of the co-founders and chief operating officer is actually sitting on my advisory board right now of that cybersecurity company. Anyway, they called me up and said, listen, we have this product, we have this idea. We launched the product. We're struggling with signups. Like, we managed to get people through the door, but they don't finish the sign up and dropping off. And the ones who do sign up eventually don't stick around. It was a mobile app. So essentially, it wasn't a dating app. So people were confusing that. It was a vision of the founders was dating apps. They help you find people, but there's no apps that help you maintain those people. There were some self-help applications for like, marriage and whatnot, like based on psychology and whatnot, like relationships and things like that. But there were nothing in between that made sure that whoever you do meet on those like Tinder and Hinge and whatever, they're actually the right people for you, and you're not going to go and waste time on all these dates. And then if you do go on a date, then it helps you maintain that relationship throughout until you go to the next step, and then so forth. And so I joined. This was the only company that I wasn't the first design hire, but I was the first design leader that they hired, an executive. And they already had a few people on the team. I helped restructure that team, build it out, hire more people. And then we rebuilt the entire product from scratch after we'd done a lot of research using my framework that I developed back at the cybersecurity company as well. And we went from essentially relaunching the app and going to 560% user acquisition growth through the first 3 months with zero marketing. And then while I was there, a guy named Jordan Ritter, who is the co-founder of Napster and also co-founder of, and I'm blanking out on the name of the company that he started with Bill Gates, I think 6 or 7 years ago. He started a new company in Seattle. He's in Seattle, and one of his co-founders knocked on my door through AngelList at the time. Now it's Well-Found. And they're like, hey, we're building this, AI thing, like personal AI assistant. We think you'll be a great match for helping us to go to the next level and to figure out our product, because we're still in the product market fit kind of place. We're trying to figure it out. And I was like, I'm happy where I am. And so it was an interesting experience where I spent about 3 months, again, trying to convince me. I was visiting Napa Valley with my wife, and Jordan was there as well. So we met up, we talked. He convinced me. He's a very persuasive guy. He's a very persuasive guy. No, he's awesome. I really like the guy. He's really smart, really sharp. Obviously, that's his 7th company, so you have this experience that it's like an attractive magnet of other people. And when I joined, one of the first things that I decided to do was I'm not going to concentrate on building a product. I'm not going to concentrate on figuring out what needs to be built. What I'm going to concentrate on is, if we're building an AI assistant that is supposed to be valuable and helpful to our customers, through users. It was a B2C, it was a consumer product, essentially targeted towards VCs, angels, lawyers, people who are constantly in meetings like salespeople and so forth. I said, you know what? I want to go and talk to all these people. And I wanted to understand one thing. I wanted to understand how people live their life from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. Everything in between, and at what point do they interact with technology, and at what capacity. So essentially, you wake up, what do? Well, most people go to the bathroom and sit on social media, which is, people don't talk about it, but let's face it, when somebody responds to you on social media, odds are they're sitting on a toilet. So I spent probably 3 weeks or so just in the weeds talking to engineers, sales people, insurance people, investors, VCs, angels, and whatnot. And I've created this entire kind of like map of how people live their life with intersection of technology throughout that day. And then I was able to map out at what point I think our product, which was called Augment, would be very useful and helpful. And when I mapped it out, we realized that a lot of the products that existed at the time, such as Otter AI, I think Granola was just born, Rewind, which eventually became Limitless, which recently got acquired by Meta, they just came around. And so what I realized from people when I was talking to, and then people who are using these products already or is existing on the market, is that people were annoyed with them because they were constantly in your face. They're either in your face or you have to go and click something to call them up upon to do something with it, right? And what I got from people that I've interviewed and spoken with is that people said, if this is truly an AI assistant, I don't want to call for it and I don't want it to be in my face, but I want it to be there when I need it. How do you build that? How do you build something that understands when somebody needs it without you telling it you need it? Right. And so we spent a couple of weeks trying to figure this out and came up with an unintrusive AI assistant that essentially appeared automatically when you actually needed it. So if you're going to your Google Calendar to look at your next meeting, if you click into the meeting, a tiny little dot will appear, not in your face, not a big thing, not a menu, just a tiny little dot will appear pulsating right next to you. If you click on it, it will show you everyone you're about to meet, everything you need to know about them, their social media, who they are, where they work, their titles, their whatever, right? All the information you need about them. Now, you're joining a meeting. As soon as you join the meeting, the AI assistant will join the meeting with you without people knowing that. It didn't join the actual meeting, but it will join automatically and will start transcribing automatically. You don't have to do anything. Once you're done with the meeting, just close your Zoom or Google Meet, whatever that is, and it will go away by itself and summarize the meeting on itself and send you an email literally 10, 15 minutes later with here's a summary of that meeting. You go to read an article on New York Times, whatever. As soon as you go to the article, it will automatically scan the entire page, summarize it for you without you have to do anything, and just gives you a little prompt saying, hey, I just summarized this article if you would like to read a summary. You click on it, read a summary. That's it. Like, it appeared in different instances on your computer without you actually clicking or doing anything with it. It's just doing everything automatically and giving you specific value in that specific moment. We landed eventually on a short list of IXDA's 2023 Interaction Awards right next to Toshiba, IBM, I think, and Google. And then redesigned the product again to be a little bit more interactive and more beautiful, if you will. And then I left the company in 23 and they got acquired in 24.
And
So
all,
that's my journey with startups.
so how do all that experience basically brought you to CPN AI? Did it make it easier to start that business? Was it still hard since you were alone now doing all the marketing, all the everything? How did that connect with Cepien?
I think the level of confidence that I can do this was there because of the fact that I worked so closely with founders for 10 years and saw some in and outs, of course, of what it means to build a company from basically nothing to something. And then go through acquisitions. I've gone through 3 acquisitions. One was I was still at the company. 2, I already left, but the work that I've done was impactful to those acquisitions. And so I think I was just felt more confident that I can do this, even though going into this, I've learned a ton of things, and I'm like, crap, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. Because obviously, you're not sitting, even though I sat at board meetings, and at the last company I was at every quarter, at some points, the founders would be like, okay, now please leave. We're going to talk about more sensitive things that we cannot share with people who are not actually on the board. Right. So there's a lot of things that I still didn't know, which I've been kind of learning along the way. But other than that, no, I felt confident that I can do this.
So coming to your product, what does it do in like simple terms so that people kind of understand it?
You know what? Y Combinator, I think, summarized our product probably the best recently when they launched their request for proposals. And number one is they said, we're looking for Coursera for product teams. And I think it's probably the best summary of our product, because what our product does is essentially integrates with your entire tool stack and data repositories and whatnot in the organization. And on the other end, it basically spits out things like tagged user issues. So essentially things like your users' pain points and annoyances and distrust and requests and bugs and errors, I don't know, feature, whatever, all of these things. And then it takes all of that, it learns your business, it learns your product, it learns your industry, it learns your competition, it learns your users, and it generates insights based on all of these user issues that it already discovered. And then it gives you recommendations of what needs to be addressed in order to, I don't know, figure out whatever issue your customers are having with your product. But we didn't stop there. We decided that this is great. A lot of products do that today. How do we do this beyond that? How do we inform customers and companies to not only make decisions, but also automate a lot of parts? And so we also added things like impact scoring. So impact scoring essentially gives you a in-depth analysis of each insight and recommendation. What will be the impact on your business goals, on your product goals, on your usability goals, environmental goals, if you have those? What's going to be the impact to your entire user population? And we also score user happiness as well. So before you make a decision that this recommendation of, I don't know, change the color of this button in this location on your product, it shows you what will be the impact, right? So as an example, if you've been having issues of people dropping off at checkout, as an example, and abandoning cart, if you will, then I'm just spitballing here. Let's assume that Cepien discovered that the reason why that happens is because your users are having specific pain points with, I don't know, level of navigational pattern in that part. And in order to remedy this and fix this, you need to change the color of the button, put it in a different location, maybe expand it, make it bigger, maybe change the font, whatever the case might be. But because you set out that your business goal, or one of your business goals, is to increase revenue, then the impact of this recommendation is probably going to be around 85 or 87%, which means this is highly impactful to your goal of increasing your revenue.
And does the platform can actually build that all from scratch, or you have to have already a platform and then that's just to optimize everything from it?
So our platform works best with existing products. So if you have a website, if you have a mobile app, if you have software, if you have e-commerce, it doesn't matter, then it will take all this data. You can start from scratch, but it needs existing data to give you those insights and recommendations, right? And again, on the other side of that, once you have a product, once you have something running, it can help you figure out your next features. It can help you figure out what you need to be building next. It can build things for you, right? And this is where I said Coursera for product teams, because we're essentially going from, our platform goes from scattered data to clear insights, recommendations, and agentic execution in a single pipeline. So it can start with, I'm going to integrate my intercom, I'm going to integrate my Notion, I'm going to integrate my Dovetail. For those of you who don't know what Dovetail is a data repository system. They're also introducing some agentic stuff as well recently. Or your Jira or Asana, whatever the case might be, all of that place where you have all the data that lives around your customer, your business processes, your sales motions, your sales force and stuff. And the other end, it literally can just go and create Jira tickets and write PRDs and generate user flows and wireframes. It will generate for you very specific and very detailed and nuanced prompts for a specific platform. One of the things that people I've learned don't know is when you go from Coursera to Cloud Code to Gemini to ChatGPT to Replit to Base 44, each one of them has their own nuanced prompt needs. They're not all the same. You can't take the same prompt and just drop it everywhere and get the same result. You have to have a more nuanced prompt for each of these platforms. So our agents that we have coding agents. They're not going to code for you, not yet, at least. But they will generate a very detailed very nuanced prompt for that specific platform you need it for. And in the future, we planning to integrate all these platforms. So all you have to do is just click a button and it'll go and build this thing for you.
And how does that platform like track all that data? Is it always in the platform seeing what people do, and does it keep tracks of like the message to see if like clients like the platform and the message going in and out? Like how does it track all those data?
So we're plugging into whatever your tool stack is. So it's integration, and data flow is automatic. Our platform, I like to call it a living, breathing organism. Um, Depending on your tier of subscription, your data refresh rate is going to be either every 24 hours, 12, or every hour. If you're an enterprise, then we're going to do it in real time, which means minutes, not hours. But at the same time, like whatever happens in your tools, right? So if you're getting influx of people complaints twice a month through Intercom or Zendesk, then you're adding your user interviews and whatnot and user research into Notion or Dovetail. You're adding new Jira tickets into your backlog. You're collecting all the sales motions, calls, transcripts, and whatnot in your Salesforce pipeline. You're collecting data on usage and behavior with your products and websites, let's say through places like HubSpot, right? All of this thing is constantly evolving, right? Google Analytics, Pendo, Mixpanel, we're plugging into all of these and we're pulling that data all the time. So as the data is being pulled, our platform constantly generates and creates new things, constantly reshuffles itself, constantly refines what it finds and what it uncovers, and constantly shows you things. We have Slack agent, we have an email agent that will communicate to your team directly in Slack every time there's a new insight, every time there's a new issue. It will send out your entire company an email on a weekly basis with the trending user issues and the latest recent insights, recommendations. So your entire company knows what is happening with your users without you as a product team needing to go and share it with anyone or communicate to anyone or convince people about here's the insight and this is why we need to be building this thing.
And do you see like why does those business doesn't already have like data just going in all one place? Like everyone know data is like that key to follow. It's like what you need to know about your clients and everyone. So how do they not track, or how are they tracking it without your platform? Like before you actually come in and help them for that?
But they don't.
Okay.
That's the simplest. It's the simplest answer, right? Like I recently came to some interesting data, if you will, right? So up until I would say maybe a couple of months ago, I was under the impression, and comes from me living in the tech industry for so long and seeing all the failed projects and those different failures and whatnot and how much they cost these companies, I was always under the impression that the tech industry loses on a yearly basis, I don't know, maybe a couple of $1 billion to incorrect decisions made on products. And then we've done research last year and found that 84% of companies make decisions with incomplete insights. About 72% of companies make decisions with basically no data or no insights. And I believe it was 60 some percent of companies that reported in our study that they had two or more costly projects fail in the last 12 months due to incorrect decisions. So I was like, okay, probably in the billions, right? And I kind of was relying on the fact that back in, I think, 23 or 24, America lost $500 million on a UX flaw, on a very stupid UX flaw that could have been avoided, right? Quibi that launched with, I think, $1.8 billion in funding and failed miserably within less than a year because they misunderstood what their customers and users actually needed, not just because, oh, we want that. Humane Pin, right? Failed miserably. Why? I also learned last year, talking to somebody who used to work there, I'm going to mention names, that shared that apparently the founders, because they came from Apple, didn't see a need to go and talk to customers because they thought they know everything, right? So like these things for me, right? And I come from companies where I've seen projects that will cost $500,000 fail because somebody in the company at a higher pay rate, we call them hippos, I don't know if you're familiar with the term, highest paid person in the office, will make a decision, will come in one day, one executive, and say, hey, I had this great idea, let's build this feature. Why? Because I think it's going to be great. But when you actually put it to test, you realize that that's going to be a waste of time and money, right? And so, but I came to a new data literally a couple of months ago that blew my freaking mind away. I want you to do a wild guess of how much money the tech industry lost to bad data and incorrect decisions based on incorrect insights in the last 5 years.
In the last 5 years, billion?
Keep going up.
Keep going up. Yeah, damn. Five?
Slightly over 2 trillion.
Oh my god. I'm not even close. Wow.
Slightly over $2 trillion were lost to bad data and bad insights.
It's like I'm so surprised by that because like AI now is like so well in my mind. Like I'm surrounded by tech people. Like I talk with tech people. You're in it. Like and in my mind, like everyone knows about AI. Everyone knows that your data can be helped with it. You can put some AI that gather all of that and then you make your decision from people that you help with your company. Where do those CEOs are like at with technology? Are they do they know where it is, what it's supposed to do, or are they still like Googling it just to help them find questions to some answers?
No, the people that, the when we launched our MVP, we onboarded around 11 companies last year just to try it out, right? See what people do with the product. Um, and what we realized that we didn't have enterprise. Enterprise came to us like large companies, and they were curious about what we're building because they're looking to how to automate certain things and increase velocities of their product teams. But we had to kind of push back because we weren't ready for. Like I had a conversation with somebody from CarMax, and I had a conversation with Vodafone, and I had a conversation with Adobe, right? And we quickly realized that we're not there yet. Like, yes, the companies want our product, but we as a company and as a product are not at that scale level that we can ingest data from CarMax that has 5 years worth of data, right? And they want to segregate it and they want to manage it and then so forth. We don't even have these kind of things built in place. And we are pre-funded. Like we don't have millions of dollars in the bank to start rolling and spending on all of the data processes, API calls, AI integrations and whatnot, right? So we started with smaller companies, still operational, still funded, not tiny early stage startups, but we started with smaller companies and we quickly realized that a lot of them are trying AI. They don't fully understand or see how to properly build out their AI, I guess, posture or infrastructure that actually works, right? More so, last year, Atlassian released an interesting report. They called them the State of Work report of 2025. In that report, they essentially interviewed, I think, a couple of hundreds of Fortune 500 companies, enterprise grade level companies. And they made a really interesting statement. I'm not going to go and dive into too many details. You can Google the report and probably download it. They stated that there are more data and information than ever before, and yet the teams are less informed than ever before. At the same time, on the executive side, they interviewed executives and found that about 98% of CEOs, VPs, and whatnot executives at these companies are not confident that their teams know how to properly utilize AI. That's a huge number. And it also kind of speaks to why the MIT report that came out that about 95% or 90% whatever of AI projects fail at all of these big companies. The reason is not because people are not aware, it's just people still don't understand or know how to best and properly use the technology. It's always like I made a post. It was a rant because I was annoyed about Atlassian yesterday on LinkedIn, and I basically tagged directly the CEO and I referenced his announcement that they're going to be laying off a bunch of people to replace with AI, right? We had a problem yesterday in our Jira. One of my co-founders could not get into the platform. Why? Because we changed our domains and whatnot. So I clicked on, hey, support. And I spent 15 minutes in essentially the same kind of loop with AI that kept giving me useless recommendations and suggested to go and talk to the community forums. I'm like, my co-founder cannot get into our Jira. He is the engineer, not me. He needs to work on things. He needs to get into Jira. And I can't. We spent hours yesterday to figure out what to do until he basically just went and reset his entire account, you know? And I made a very annoying, like annoyed post about it on LinkedIn Because the one thing that people don't realize is, and I think Salesforce had the same problem. They laid off, what, 4,000 people to replace with AI and their support staff. But then they tried to rehire a lot of them 3 months or 4 months later because they realized that shit doesn't work well. It's not because AI is not there yet. AI is awesome. The technology is incredible. You just need to know how to properly and where, which use case to use it for. So in our case, right, the one thing that we realized early on is that a lot of companies are rushing to implement AI, even the ones who we consider competitors. Now, those competitors are still concentrated on a singular space, and we're not. We learned, and that's why we, on a path of patent, like we have a provisional patent in our entire software, uh, that in order to make better decisions, you need to holistically unify data, but it's not only data, because getting data, it's one thing, getting analytics is another thing. Because if somebody goes to your intercom and makes a complaint that they weren't able to, just like I had yesterday, I can't log into my Jira for whatever reason, right? At the same time, let's say your Mixpen or Append or a Datadog registered an error on your system, like literally within minutes apart, right? At the same time, let's say your QA team or your sales or your customer experience team made a report in your either Jira or Notion or Asana, whatever, that some customers are experiencing X, Y, and Z issues. Our system knows to put it all together. Others do not. We know how to identify that, oh, that's not a UX problem, that's a tech problem, because it seems like something glitched in the system. Because of that, the user weren't able to log into their system. Because of that, you got tickets in Intercom or Zendesk. Because of that, you got emails to your customer experience team. Because of that, you have engineering team trying to figure this out right now or spending their time on that, right? So our system knows to understand that not everything is user feedback. Not everything is, financial issues or sales issues, right? It's sometimes you really need to like a step back, take a bird's eye view of your data, right? So if you're recently, when we started looking at how our system really works, realized if you ever looked at the human genome chart of how everything is interconnected, that's literally how our system works. Everything is interconnected. It triangulates data between all of these places. So if you're connecting your Google Analytics and your intercoms and Notions and what, it will run data triangulation before doing anything. Then once it collects all this information, cleans all the data, finds the right user issues, then it runs cross references between other pieces of data, analytics, behavioral analytics, qualitative data, quantitative data, and so forth.
And how long did it take to make that all happen together? Was it just first time it all clicked together, or that took like?
No, it's almost, honestly, I would say it's almost a year in process, right? We started with one piece. Then we added another piece, and we realized we're missing this piece. Then we had some customers asking, "Oh, can we integrate this or do that?" And we like, "Oh crap, we also need this piece," right? And then we kind of sat down and figured out that, hold on a second. In order for this to work even better, it really needs to have this collective brain power of everything to really understand what is happening and what is going on, not only with your users, but also with your product, right? Because that's why we don't call our system a voice of customer or customer intelligence. No, we are an autonomous product intelligence system. We show you everything that's happening with your user in relation to your product, to your business, to your sales, and so forth. We show you what is happening with your product in relationship to your user, to your business, to your goals, to the environment.
And I think you just mentioned about talking to customers, and you took, I think, 2 months off of the development to actually talk with them. So what did that brought you as information, and what did you guys learn or even pivot to like make your product better for those kind of customers?
Yes, we did. Thanks for that question. We didn't just talk to our customers. We've done research with people outside that not even aware of our existence. Um, we spoke to our existing users, and then we ran a study with surveys, if you will, with several dozen of CX professionals, PMs, UX designers, UX researchers, and so forth. And then I conducted interviews with actual design leaders. design product leaders, people who lead those teams. And we validated our main pain point that we're trying to solve. We validated partially our second thought, if you will. And we were kind of surprised by a third one that we discovered. And then it led to a few interesting things. So first, we essentially boiled down everything to three main burning pain points that people are experiencing in the space. The first one, which we knew ahead of time, like from the get-go, that's why we're doing this, is there's too much data that lives in too many places. The second one, which we partially knew but wanted to make sure we wanted to validate, is because of that, there's not enough time and resources to unify and synthesize all this data. And the third one, which was a surprise to us to a degree, was the fact that people were complaining it is absolutely impossible to rally an entire company around a single user insight to make sure that everyone moves into the same direction. That came as a surprise because even though I've experienced some of these issues back in my day, I thought, and I was under the impression from all other design leaders that I've spoke with over the years, that there is some sort of a grip on how do you rally your team, cross-functional teams, and the rest of the organization around singular kind of insights of users, right? Our customers are having this problem, and this is the insight. We're going to go and build this. Everyone kind of, but it's not. Apparently, everyone has their own idea of a product. When a company, especially when a company becomes bigger than early stage startup, when you're like 100+ employees, you start creating these little silos of teams. Each one of them has their own pieces of tools and applications, their own data that they collect. From their perspective, marketing is looking at the perception of the product, perception of the brand, how people respond to it, and things like that. The sales team is concentrated on how can I sell? How can I push more sales? You have customer experience. How do I satisfy my customers? You have the product and design team. How do I build my product to solve real problems for the user, right? To comply with business. Then you have the financial team and executives and so on. So everyone has their own tools, has their own pieces of places of data. They don't share this data on a daily basis. Like in order for a company to do what our platform does, pardon my language, I shit you not, they need to implement a system where every single team shares all of their findings and insights every single day with the rest of the company.
Makes sense.
And everyone in company has to make sure that they actually spend the time reading it and understanding it, right? So it is impossible for teams to align around a singular insight. And so if you know the old fable of blind men and an elephant, right, in the room where every one of them touches a different part of an elephant and thinks it's a different thing. Somebody touches the trunk and says it's a snake. Somebody touches the leg saying it's a column. So, and then the list goes on, right? So, but they're all touching the same thing. They just don't know about the rest of that thing.
And how much of that is that like a problem that's reoccur in businesses? Is that often a problem?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. All the time. Like people that I spoke with, basically, and some of them I wish I recorded the videos because you could see their frustration in their face of, I feel it's absolutely impossible. And I'm saying, like, it's a quote from one of the people that I interviewed. It's like, it is absolutely fucking impossible to align my entire company, which is not huge. The guy that I spoke with, their company, I think is like 500 people. It's not thousands of people, to align around the exact same freaking user insights. Every single time we have to make decisions on our product, it's an argument. It's an argument internally with other teams when we say, here's an insight. And they're like, well, we have a different one.
So now sales, more sales, marketing, more marketing, and then it's always like a fight in the middle. Huh.
Yeah.
And coming back to the conversation that you had with those customers, if you'd had to redo a new platform or a new SaaS or whatever, would you start with go and talk with those ICPs or those people that you aim at to confirm all that before building? Or would you still start building with kind of what you know as a pain point and then somewhere in that development, then go back to the customer and confirm all of it?
We didn't start blindly. Like it wasn't, we probably changed our strategy on some questions that we were asking this time around. Because the first time around, since I come from that space and I've experienced that problem myself, right? I started building something that I thought will be, and we didn't build, mind you. So, story of our origins started with I, by myself, no co-founders, no engineers, no nothing, sitting from my computer and putting together Figma screens and then putting it on a very rudimentary, just a little bit clickable prototype with the things and features and functions and whatnot that I thought to myself, like, I would have loved this thing if I had this 8 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever, right? And then I reached out to about a dozen or so design and product leaders on LinkedIn that I'm connected with. And I said, hey, I'm thinking of building this thing. I would love your feedback on that. I would love to talk to you. So I hopped on a call with 10 people. First, I asked them about how is your process today? How do you guys do things today? How do you experience things today? And then I said, okay, I'm going to show you something. I'm not going to tell you what it does, how it does, and whatnot. I'm just going to click through some things and I want to get your feedback. When I showed them what I'm planning on building, 9 out of 10 said, please build this faster. I need it yesterday. And one of them said, can I give you money? And that was my first angel investor. She's a former senior director of design from WeWork. After she saw what I'm building, she's like, crap, are you fundraising right now? I'm like, well, no, I haven't thought about it. But she's like, can I invest? I said, I guess. With that money, I went to register a company and open up a bank account. I didn't have a company before that. That's how it started.
That's amazing. So you did do that. You hear some platform that just try to like start something with now with vibe coding. It's like just build it and then try it.
No,
Do you think that's like a good approach, or do you think a good approach is actually go speak with people, go know what you have to do, and then try to kind of build something from there?
I think, and I've spoken with at this point, I think probably 20, 30, almost 50 other founders across different communities that I'm a part of, is that like I've seen a lot of people complaining, especially in Reddit as well. Like, I just spent 4 months building this thing, I launched and no one wants it, right? And the question is, did you actually talk to people that you're launching it to or for if they actually need it, right? Now, I obviously I would say you can vibe code whatever you want, right? And you can give it a try, but I would not recommend doing even the vibe coding, which can take you, I don't know, a couple of days, I guess, maybe, or a week to get to something kind of functional, uh, without truly understanding whatever you're building is actually something that solves even, you know what, not even a mission critical problem, but just a problem, right? Because not everything needs to be mission critical. Like, I've spoken to some investors who are like, is your product is mission critical or nice to have? And I'm like, in my opinion, mission critical. Somebody else might say nice to have, right? It's not my call to make as a founder. My call is, I've discovered a problem. I've discovered that there is a 30-year-old process that haven't changed largely over the last 30 years of how we turn raw data into clear insights. It sped up a little bit with copilots. So now teams don't spend 3 weeks, they spend a week. It's a huge difference, but it's still a week, right? And so I figured out a way of how to do it in 10 minutes. So, right. Um, so yes, you have to understand, why are you building this and who will benefit from it? What's their pain point? What's their need?
Amazing. So that just kind of makes sense. But you hear so much people like just like build all those platforms, build like 50 platform and try them all, and it's like yes, but not really. So
Yeah, yeah.
just coming back to your business, what was like the hardest part of like building all of that? Like, what was like the challenges that you didn't expect from building all of it?
Engineering part. It's I recently got on TikTok because one of my advisors and investors pushed me to get on TikTok. And trust me, I don't really like TikTok. But anyway, I was scrolling through TikTok one day and then I saw some I think investors saying, if your team is not shipping or building and shipping something within, what do you say, 2 weeks, then you're doing it wrong, right? Is that it's essentially on about vibe coding, right? When you can vibe code anything today, you can build these things in like days instead of months now. But then when you actually start building, and I had the same mindset, right? I'm like, hey, there's AI, like we can build this thing pronto. But we quickly realized that no amount of AI can help with proper architecture, understanding how things interact with each other. proper security measures, proper user management things, authentication systems, like all these things. And then when you build something that never been built before, even with AI, it proved to be, yes, it helps helping us a little bit, maybe increase our velocity by 10-15%, give or take. But it's not like we can turn around. We have Coursera, we're sitting on Coursera as a team. And I would say from my CTO complaints that it takes her probably more time to clean and fix whatever Coursera is building rather than sometimes building it herself, right? Yes, it helps her with, I can tell it what to do with whatever elements we already have in place, and then walk away and do something else, then come back and spend some time cleaning and then fixing some things. Sure, yes, that's helpful, but again, it's not like we can build something very quickly. I'll give you an example. We're launching with what we call a playground. Playground, we call it a Cepien mini agent. What it does really is allows users to experience a small portion of what our product can do in a chat interface experience. Our platform is not necessarily a chat experience, it's a platform. You can still talk to your data and whatnot. We have all these features like everyone else, but Playground is just chat interface. You can dump in there your CSV data file, you can upload your ICP document, you can talk to our AI system, and it will give you within minutes your top 5 tagged user issues, your top 5 insights and recommendations with some analysis and scoring on your business goals, product goals, and usability goals. Now, our platform was largely ready to launch probably about a month and a half ago. We delayed the launch because of one thing, our playground, which seemed to be, from the perspective of experience, very simple, because it's just a small chat interface and you can just chat with this thing. But the orchestration behind it is so freaking complex that no vibe coding in the world could have helped us to untangle this thing and do it in 2 weeks instead of a month and a half.
Right. So you always need that human in the background to actually check that actually.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. A design from Anthropic recently on Lenny's podcast said something interesting. She said, there will always going to be a human in the loop for one single reason, if nothing else, is you have to have somebody to blame. Like, you can't say, oh, why did this fail and we lost millions of dollars? AI said that or did that, because it happened. It recently happened. I don't know if you heard about that story of some investment company that invests in, I think, either precious metals or earth materials or whatever. I don't remember. But they basically, their CFO, I think, both vibe coded a AI system that analyzes different markets around the globe and figures out where's the best investments can be. And so they launched it to their team and they started investing based on the statistics and research and analysis that the AI was doing. And they did it for probably like a quarter or two until one of them realized that all of this is fake. All of the numbers are fake. It's all hallucination. None of these things are real. Statistics are completely off. They were just basically spent millions of dollars in investments on completely imaginary numbers.
Ouch. Surprised at the end of the quarter when it's not positive and you're like, God damn it. So for your platform, I think you just said you're launching in like a month or so. What's the goal for that for the next year regarding to the platform?
We are, if nothing goes terribly wrong, which we're in tech, things go wrong all the time, especially at startups. We're just aware of that. I've lived that for the last over a decade. Then we're technically launching at the end of this month. Our goal for this year is revenue. We're probably going to go out for pre-seed around either end of this quarter or next quarter. But the main goal is to start generating some revenue. Because up until now, we had some pilots. We had some customers paying us, but very little. We had to redo our entire pricing model because we were wrong the first time. So that's our goal. This year is revenue.
Nice. So going into the future, if people want to maybe contact with you, look at your platform, follow what you guys are doing, where can they come and contact and be in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. That's my favorite social network. You will not, I mean, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, but I will not probably respond.
TikTok.
You can find me on TikTok, but it's not even about my company. Like excuse me, my TikTok account is building startup. That's it. I'm just talking about what it feels to me building startup, talking to investors, and all this experience. Um, but you can find me on LinkedIn, my full name. Our company is Cepien AI with a C and E, not A. Some people may confuse. It's Cepien AI. Right now, it just shows what we're about to potentially launch and little email thing we're collecting. But if you visit the website, God willing, and everything is okay, let's say from first week of April, you'll see a very different website there.
There you go. So thanks for your time, Jan. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having. It was fun.